Welcome to another edition of Inside Medicine. I am your host, Doug Geinzer, and we're here in the studio today with Dr. John Dougherty, the new Dean of the Touro University School of Medicine. For those of you that are new to the show, or this is your first time watching, we do broadcast every single Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and you are able to chat with the guest here today by visiting the vegasvideonetwork.com/live. So if you have any questions, please feel free to go online. Again, vegasvideonetwork.com/live, and you'll be able to ask those questions. Welcome to the studio, Dr. Dougherty.
Thank you, Doug.
So before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're new to Las Vegas, so tell us about yourself.
Well, I moved here from Kansas City with my family. I've got two sons still at home. My wife and I, we live in the Henderson area. Prior to that, being in Kansas City, we were in Joplin, Missouri. And yes, we were there when the tornado hit. That's always a common question.
Of course.
But this is my 20th year in undergraduate or graduate medical education. Started on the hospital side, learned the residency aspect of physician training. And then about, I guess it's been close to 9-10 years ago now, I moved over to the undergraduate or the medical student side of the training process.
Yeah. So how's the family liking Las Vegas? It's a big change from Kansas.
You know, it's absolutely wonderful. The people here are so friendly, genuinely very nice everywhere you go. I love the sun coming up over the mountains in the morning. I love the sun going down over the mountains at night. It's gorgeous.
And it looks like you got to take a tour of, Scott, if you could pull that picture back up. Is that the Hoover Dam?
Yes,
right?
we did. And that's my gorgeous wife there to my left. That's Sarah. And with members, Rabbi Krupka is standing there on the far right from Touro, New York. And part of our orientation when we had the board here was we got able to go to the dam.
Yeah, that dam. So have you been able to see other parts of Las Vegas?
Yes. We were mentioning earlier, I think we were all smarter before GPS. But from a variety of misturns, I've actually seen more of Las Vegas than I probably anticipated. But I am learning my way around, and it's great. We're very grateful to be here, very fortunate.
So when did you get officially appointed dean?
I officially became dean on February 1st. I am the second dean at the university. Our founding dean, Dr. Mitchell Foreman, has done an amazing job on setting the table. I could not have think of a better person to put down the foundation of this institution and bring it to the point to where it is now. And I'm blessed to have followed in his footsteps to begin to continue to build on that foundation that he has created.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with Dr. Foreman over the years, especially with the grand opening of Touro University. He was one of our recipients last year.
There he is.
So,
yes, he was indeed.
Inspired Excellence in Healthcare Awards. He's done so much for the Valley, and you've got big footsteps to follow in there.
No doubt, no doubt.
So how did you find out about this opportunity, and how did you select Las Vegas?
Well, interestingly, it was Dr. Foreman that recruited me. I had been at a meeting where he was attending, and at the time I had 4 other opportunities on the table to consider, and when Dr. Foreman found out that I was open to the consideration of leaving Kansas City, he gave me a phone call. We talked for about an hour and a half. He made his pitch on why this is a wonderful place to be and why Touro was an incredible institution to be part of. And so I came out, and then I saw that he was 1,000% accurate, and talked to my wife, and we said, this is really a good place, good direction for us to move as we go through the rest of my career.
And at what point did Shelley Berkeley strong arm you? Because we know Shelley's got that strength.
I will tell you. So you do your due diligence now, same way people will be doing this. We got on the internet, and as soon as I saw some of the interviews that Shelley had done, I realized what an amazing leader that we have here, not only for Touro, but in the Valley in general. She has. The longer that I'm with the organization, the more I find that she has accomplished for the entire citizenship of the Valley. And it's incredible to be able to work with her and under her, and just to be able to learn from her every day that I'm at work. She teaches me something new.
She's done an amazing job representing Nevada, Board of Regents, Congresswoman. And, it's funny. We had her in the studio a couple weeks back, and I told Scott, our producer here, look, this gal's going to come in. She's going to be one time, sit down, and done. He said, I've never seen that happen. And sure enough, she hit it. She's just so well-spoken.
Agree. Couldn't have a better boss, that's for sure.
Yeah. So where did you do your medical training? Where did you start?
Well, I did medical school in Kansas City.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I had been part of that institution for almost 25 years, from the medical student side to contributing to faculty as a outside community member to actually being on staff there. So,
Yep.
And then went on to Texas to do residency training in family medicine, followed that with a fellowship in sports medicine, and more recently, as far as education goes, I was one of the National Health Policy Fellows, so that's kind of added to my acumen as we move forward in this.
That's cool. So tell us about sports medicine. You just got back from the Dominican Republic, and tell us about that.
Well, I came through college as a collegiate two-sport athlete and knew that I thought I was going to go into teaching and save some money and then eventually go to medical school. Long story short, I wound up going to medical school instead of going into the classroom. And because I was going to do that athletic trainer, the sports medicine component really spoke to me. And I worked through that through medical school. And then in sports medicine, the rule is if you don't ask, they can't say no. So I asked to go and contribute and participate in a lot of things. I've been very fortunate. And I've kind of crafted my practice in the last multiple years to just basically taking care of college and professional athletes.
Mm-hmm. And the affiliation with the Kansas City Royals. Tell us about that.
The Royals are a wonderful organization. When I moved to Arkansas to help, my brother and I went into practice together in sports medicine. He's orthopedics. I'm primary care. The Royals moved their organization from Wichita to Northwest Arkansas. We were interviewed and we were selected to be their team physicians there.
Nice.
And part of my background, I do a little unusual stuff in sports medicine. I kind of do biomechanics, which is I can kind of predict, based on your physical exam, when you're going to get injured and what kind of injury you're going to have. And that's a very unique skill set. And we put in rehab protocols and processes. So when I left Northwest Arkansas as their head team medical physician, I went to Kansas City and continued to contribute as an organizational physician, primarily focusing on the minor leagues. And my team happens to be the academy team in the Dominican Republic. So
very cool.
Yeah, we go down there and we assess the athletes before they come stateside, and then work. Fortunately for us, we then would go out to the community and start taking care of the people that live in and around the baseball academy there. Just it's a little bit east of Santo Domingo in a town called Guerra.
Wow. So tell us about that. So you go to the Dominican Republic, you venture outside of the walls.
True.
You get to see the real countryside,
Absolutely.
get to treat some of the population there in the Dominican. What are some of those experiences, and how do you bring those back into academic medicine?
Well, I take students with me every year. It's a very enlightening opportunity for the students who see the patients that we care for here. Even in the Valley, the students they do get to see people that have challenges with a variety of different components of the healthcare, whether it's insurance or, their physical well-being or, whatever it may be. But when you go to the Dominican and you come around a corner and you see that everybody lives in metal sheds, corrugated tin sheds that we would call a garage shed, a lawnmower shed. You put your stuff in the back corner of the house, but that's the entire village. It really has an impact on them, and they're a lot more grateful for what they have, and it helps them to put things into perspective relative to the big picture. So it's very meaningful to the students to be able to grasp that. And then on the other side of the coin, we work with 2 medical schools in the Dominican Republic, work with the Minister of Health, work with the military, and we have collaborated with them on identifying particular types of disease states indigenous to an area. The government has done an amazing job down there. They put in new water treatment plants to try to address the issues with parasites. They've put in clinics. We've worked with the medical schools to help staff those clinics. So it's been great.
Fantastic. So you were a ball player yourself through college.
Yes, sir.
What sport did you play?
I played football and I played tennis. I walked onto the tennis team and made the tennis team. Never played tennis before college, but made the team.
Wow. And then you had an opportunity to play professional ball, and you chose to go to medical school. And...
Well, I was rather fast as a youngster. That was my kids remind me that was 30 pounds and 30 years ago. But I used to run a 4.240, which there's probably less than 1% of the people in the NFL that can run that fast. And came out. I'd already been accepted to medical school, and I went down to the pro day, and the head football coach came out and said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go run for these guys." He said, No. He goes, "Somebody's going to put you on their practice squad. You won't go to medical school, and I can't live with myself because I've never had a football player make it to med school. I've had a few go to the pros, and if you do that, you won't go, and that'll be horrible for." And I'm like, all right. So I did not go and run for the pros.
Do you regret that decision at all?
Some days we all have that sentence we can finish, when I was 23, I wish I had.
Sure.
So I can finish that sentence with that anecdote. But all of us have a different answer to that. So I try to make sure for my children that I give them the opportunity to finish that sentence in a way different than mine with a hint of regret.
And you were also in theater in college.
I was the only two-sport athlete that also was in the National Theater fraternity. So I was a 4-year vocal scholar and paid most of my way singing through college, and also did a lot of theater, a lot of leads in collegiate plays and summer stock and stuff like that. So, doing that is a lot of fun.
So we've got one of our guests chatted in a question. Thank you, Nick, for that question. And the question is, what made you get into academia?
When I was an undergraduate, my undergraduate was in education. So like I mentioned earlier, I was going to go and teach. And when I went into residency programs, I kind of restructured and reorganized the curriculum because I thought it could be stronger. And then when I left, the program kind of declined from an academic standpoint. The hospital turned around about 4 or 5 months after I left and asked me to come back and lead the educational component. So I've been in education now ever since.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Touro. It's a unique university. It's a Jewish-owned and run university.
It's a Jewish-affiliated institution. We have a total of 29 schools all over the world. We have 4 internationals. We have 5 medical schools.
Wow.
4 osteopathic schools, 1 allopathic school, 1 in California, in the Vallejo area, 3 in New York, and schools in Germany, Israel, Paris, and Moscow.
Yeah, I don't think our local population realizes the footprint that Touro has around the world. It's not just here, but it's around the U.S. and Berlin and Israel. That's
absolutely the goal and objective for each of those facilities is to help meet the needs of the community in which they are. Yeah. A prime example is Touro University Nevada. The whole focus is helping address the healthcare shortages here in the valley.
I think something else that our population doesn't quite understand is you're really the first medical school in Las Vegas.
Correct.
And we've got 2 new med schools being built, but Touro's been here. When did Touro open up in Las Vegas?
Touro's first graduating class was in 2008, and we graduate 135 students a year. This year we have, I believe it's 18 or 19 students when they graduated, matriculated into training programs here in the Valley, so they are going to stay. Our goal and objective is to accomplish as many of those students into residency programs here in the Valley, and that's why the participation by the hospitals in expanding those residency programs is so crucial to us, assisting us in meeting our mission.
Yeah, we're going to touch on graduate medical education a bit, and you've got a lot of experience in that area.
I do indeed.
Yeah, before we dive into that, tell us, you're an osteopathic medical school.
Yes, sir.
How does that differ from an allopathic?
It's a philosophy. It's a little bit different of a perspective. Osteopathic medicine was started around the Civil War by a physician who at the time didn't think that the medicines of the day were actually accomplishing what their intentions were. Remember, that's when mercury and arsenic was a big treatment plan, leeches. And he felt as though there's got to be a better way. And he thought the medicine at the time was actually harming the patients more than they were helping. So that was pre-vaccinations, pre-antibiotics, pre-IV fluids, for goodness sake. So he started this philosophy of the body has ability to take care of itself, and you have to get the structural component of the body in line so its own well-being can be accomplished. And now we know more about immunology, we know more about microbiology, we know more about a variety of different foundational sciences that we didn't then. And medicine in total has probably come more towards his philosophy. Doesn't matter if it's allopathic or osteopathic, and we use the term often holistic. Holistic is we try to engender in the students that the individual in front of them is exactly that. It's an individual that, we're not talking about the pneumonia in room 212. We're talking about Mrs. Smith who has pneumonia in 212. And that's not a unique philosophy to osteopathic medicine anymore, But it is something that we really emphasize to the students, and we want them to come out of our institution with that in their head, that they're there to take care of the person.
Now, Touro also owns an allopathic med school in New York.
Correct, sir.
And so how do they collaborate? How do you work together there? And what's the relationship between the two schools? Because it's unique that you have that perspective to be able to look down the pipe of both of them.
True. The school there is in Valhalla, New York, and it's New York Medical College. And that institution has just recently folded into the Touro family, meeting the last several years. We have meetings annually for the whole board, and all of the schools are represented at those meetings. And the deans are beginning to collaborate between institutions relative to philosophy, educational opportunities, and resources. The schools in Harlem, that's New York Harlem, right across the street from the Apollo Theater. Wow. I can't wait to go there. Is probably a couple, 3 years into graduating their classes. There's another school in Middletown, New York, which is just having their students in their third year. And the New York Medical College has been a long-established allopathic institution, but again, they've just folded into the family recently. Yeah.
So let's dive into the topic of graduate medical education.
Sure.
You've got a lot of experience there. I was looking at your background, and you've been the chair of several different groups. As you know, Las Vegas Heals started the conversation around graduate medical education about, I think it was back in 2011. We rounded a bunch of people up into a room and said, hey, we need to expand GME in the market. What's that going to look like? That group, it led to the formation of a task force that was headed up by Dr. Joe Hardy, who's over there on faculty with you all.
He's a great
and Joe, Senator Hardy, gave us some amazing leadership throughout this entire process. And that led to the governor forming a formal task force, and that brought forward our recommendations and ultimately led to $10 million in funding. I want to talk about a couple different things. I want to go back and hear some of your experiences before in the past, but really talk about that $10 million a bit. Is Touro, did you submit on that the bid for that?
I've been appointed by Governor Sandoval to that task force,
awesome.
So I will be representing on that. The money goes to hospitals. That's a common confusion. Medical schools do not graduate residents from the school. They work in collaboration with a hospital who does the training for the physicians, and then their name goes in collaboration with the hospital. So if it's our sponsor that we have here is Valley Hospital, so they graduate from our consortium, which includes the hospital and the medical school. The hospitals, the residency programs are funded through the hospitals through Medicare. And unless you are a Medicare provider and you have a Medicare ID number, you cannot receive funding to train the residents. So as such, the residents are employees of the hospitals. They're the training responsibility under the accrediting bodies is underneath the hospital, and the medical schools give support relative to simulation lab, library, anatomy lab, all of the academic pieces of the puzzle that a hospital may or may not want to build as an infrastructure piece. And then we, if you will, subcontract in common terms to provide those services so they can give them solid training.
Yep. So recently, there was some movement to bring together the residency or the GME between allopathic and osteopathic.
Sure.
And that's all, I believe, supposed to come together by 2019. What does that do to change things?
Actually, it started in 2015 last
Okay,
year.
wow.
And the way that it had come through the years is there were osteopathic residency programs that were accredited by the American Osteopathic Association, or the AOA. And then there were the Accreditation Council on Graduate Medical Education, or the ACGME, did the evaluation and the approval of all of the MD, quote-unquote, residencies. And through the years, like I mentioned earlier, the philosophy has pretty much been centralized. And in essence, the programs have had standards that were just a little variable. Now they've agreed upon standards, and there's a single accreditation system that has been created. They don't like the word merger, but in essence, any student, regardless of the philosophy of the school that they trained in, will have the opportunity to go into a program that's under the umbrella of the ACGME. And before I came to Las Vegas, I had started about a little over 370 new residency positions in and around, for the school in Kansas City. And as part of the result of that, I was named to the ACGME. So I think I'm one of the few deans MD or DO that are a member of the ACGME.
So in Kansas, I want to look down and make sure I get this right. You were the Senior Associate Dean for Clinical Affairs and Graduate Medical Education.
Correct.
And then on top of that, you were the Chief Academic Officer of Graduate Medical Education Consortium.
Correct.
Tell us about that, and does any of that, can it come into play here in Las Vegas?
Oh, absolutely. So we had in Kansas City what was known as a decentralized model. The medical school was not attached to a hospital. Often, it's common for the medical schools to have a hospital right across the street, and the students and the residents contribute to their educational process. In today's day and age, a decentralized model is much more feasible with the technology that we have. This is a prime example. Right now, we had traditionally what we refer to as the sage on the stage. You know, someone would get up front, just like all of us went to high school, and let's talk about algebra today. You know, let's talk about, diabetes today. And you'd have a auditorium full of residents and students that were in clinical education. Now, with the way that we have technology, we apply that technology. And we had, in Kansas City, I had residents that were in 4 different time zones, but I could deliver them all the same content by using this type of a tool, and then some asynchronous question and answer sessions on a chat board, if you will. So being able to have that experience of being in diverse systems, there's an opportunity that we could accomplish similar thing, maximize our resources, minimize the overhead associated with these training programs, which could then allow the hospitals to provide more training programs because their dollar is going to go a little farther. So there's some, examples of that nationwide. In Wisconsin, there's a prime example of that system. And right now, the hospitals that have been that have done an amazing job for the Valley in their training programs have not used that model. But I think as we have more programs come on, it's a significant opportunity for us to enhance the education of all of those physicians in training, and therefore the patients that they're going to care for.
You bet. So we all know that the expansion of GME residency programs is going to be a huge coup for Las Vegas. I believe the number's 67% of these doctors stay behind where they did their residency.
Correct. Within an hour of where they train, yes.
That's big. So from a growth perspective for Touro, does this allow you to grow the medical school? Because you now have an outlet, is that part of the planning process? Where does Touro leverage up on this?
You have to have responsible growth. So before you, just kind of like you alluded to, before you add more medical students to the mix, you need to be contributing to where those individuals are going to go. At this moment in time, the state is a net exporter of medical students. We train between currently the 2 medical schools on some 60 and ourselves 195 students. There's only roughly 138 first-year positions available. We had a meeting just a couple days ago between the 2 schools. I believe we have just shy of 40 of those 195 were able to find residency positions in the state.
Wow.
So we net exported between the 2 existing schools. What is the difference? Whatever that is.
150. That's
150 students that went to California, Utah, Texas, Arizona. And it's not because those students didn't want to stay, it's because there may not have been the opportunity. Now, we did bring in an additional 90 or so students from other states. Many of those may have been individuals that accomplished their undergrad here in the state or have family here and wanted to get back. But by the hospitals and expanding and growing that, like you said before, they usually stay within an hour of where they train as a resident. We're going to hopefully keep more of those and then keep that investment, those dollars that the state is putting into medical student education, into resident education, and have the higher return on investment here within the state as opposed to benefiting our neighbors.
Yeah, and it's by our estimates, it looks like we're going to almost quadruple the number of residency slots in Nevada if we do it right.
And that's what I think is on the board at this time, and I think various institutions are at varying degrees of executing that plan. So, and with my background, I've kind of have a niche expertise in finance and organization and accreditation for graduate medical education. I think, that is probably one of the a significant reason why I was selected to accomplish the role as dean here.
Well, you obviously bring a lot of experience, and we can learn from that. We're working our way through this whole GME expansion process, and we all know that starts leading to fellowship programs
Absolutely.
and that specialty and subspecialty type training, because we can't get that until we get the residency programs in place. It's a chicken or egg concept.
And we have talked a little bit, you and I, in the past about medical tourism.
Mm-hmm.
And as it stands now, I think we're also a net exporter for medical tourism, because there's some specialties that I know that people in the region would like to have accomplished and stay home, but yet they have to leave the city to get that specialty care. So those fundamental foundational residencies, the primary care residencies, are critically important, but we do need to look towards accomplishing programs that will bring those specialties so our people can stay home. They don't have to leave.
Yeah.
They don't have to leave the area to go seek that care.
Yeah, it's our desire for Las Vegas to become the most globally recognized destination for health and wellness travel. And we've got a ways to go.
Absolutely.
But we've got a strategic plan in place. And a lot of that plan was we needed to fix the people factor.
Right.
We needed to have a pipeline of new physicians. And Touro's giving us the highest volume right now of new graduates coming out.
We have indeed. And the same way that Dr. Foreman laid the foundation of the school back in 2004, I think the efforts of Las Vegas Heals and of the community at large, we're beginning to see the reward of this investment by Touro into the community, going on 13 years ago. I know it's kind of hard now. You plant that seed, you water that seed, and eventually it will bear fruit. But if you don't initiate that process, you never will.
Well, it's bearing fruit. We see that.
Absolutely.
And we thank you for that.
No, we're proud to be a part of the bigger picture.
So one of the other things that you're doing, you're changing up or adjusting or getting alignment with the curriculum. What does that look like? What does that mean to the community and the new students of Touro?
Well, I would say that this generation learns differently than when we went to school, and there are certain things that appeal to them that are different. They're more service-minded. There's more community-oriented. So we're beginning to integrate more service learning, where the students will go out into the community, engage the community as part of their learning, and that way it will help cement their relationship with the community and hopefully get them to come back and stay. Also, we're going to be working on individualization of the clinical years. If we have students that are strong academically and they know that they want to go into surgery, that we're going to give them additional opportunities during their third year to follow that path, and hopefully in this very competitive residency environment give them a leg up on the competition, because we want to keep our kids at home. We want them to be the first choice for the hospitals for the residency programs, and they'll already have roots here in the community, and then they'll stick around.
So we've got a few more minutes left. Tell us about the other programs that Touro has to offer there.
Oh, Touro has done an amazing job in addressing all of the healthcare needs. We have physician assistants, we have occupational therapy students, physical therapy, nursing, all the way up to our brand new nurse practitioner program that's going to start in the fall. We also have an education department. We're trying to collaborate with the school district to help fulfill some of those goals and objectives. And then if we have students that maybe did not have as strong as an academic background in the sciences, we have a master's in health sciences that will help them be stronger applicants in any of those programs.
So, Dr. Dougherty, we want to thank you for being on the program today. It's been a great pleasure having you here with us today.
Appreciate it, your time. It's flown.
Absolutely. So next week on Inside Medicine, we're going to have a couple folks here to talk about the recently passed Expedited Licensure bill. And that bill allows us to get new doctors credentialed and licensed in the state of Nevada within 45 days from a complete application submission. We're going to have two great guests on here. We're going to have Vance Farrow, who is with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. He is the healthcare specialist. And then we're going to have Dr. John Grossmith, who is a new neurosurgeon that will be opening up the Bonati Spine Institute. That was one of our first doctors to go through this process. So we encourage everybody to join us next Friday, 10 o'clock, right here at the VegasVideoNetwork.com/live. Or, of course, if you missed the show, you could always watch it on LasVegasHeals.org. And next week, we will be talking about expedited licensure. We thank you all for being here with us today. And Dr. Dougherty, if you want to tell people how they could get in touch with you, that would be wonderful.
If you're interested, you can reach us at tun.touro.edu, and you can find a link to contact us there.
Very good. Well, we thank you. And everybody, you have a great day.
Thank you, sir.